civilization.
Yes, ma'am.
So not a lesson that you're all unfamiliar with. So let's start off. Let just tell me what is it that you have I mean, what is your fair idea about this particular lesson, and why is it so important that we are, time and again studying about this particular, thing all through our history, discussions throughout the from whenever you've been having history, like you started off basically with this particular lesson. Hmm? What is the significance of this Indus Valley civilization? Let's not talk about the significance, it's a little heavy. What is it you know about this particular civilization? Just feel free to share it. Anybody? No, nobody is any specific, because I barely know any one of you, but yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Shivam, go ahead.
Ma'am, this was one of the most advanced civilization of their times. Ma'am, they had made like several. This was widespread in the area of the rivers, ma'am, in the northern plains.
Northern
Ma'am, and this,
Plains or the
yes,
northwestern part of the country?
yes, ma'am. I meant the northwestern part of the country.
Hmm, hmm.
And then also, ma'am, these were one of the first civilization to have like a proper drainage system, and they had many other such achievements, ma'am.
All right, all right. There are a couple of others who raised their hands. In turn, can one of you all also, is this what you all wanted? There is Sunil, there is Adit. Is there anything other you would want to add other than, yes, Sunil, go ahead. Anything other than what has been said by Shivam?
Yes, ma'am. My name is not Sunil. That's my father's name. My name is Akshita, ma'am.
Akshita. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Akshita. You
Ma'am, the
can.
Indus Valley civilization, the most significant part is the drainage system. Like how they
Okay,
developed it
okay,
very well.
okay, okay. Drainage. Other than that, let's give Dhruv a chance now.
Ma'am, that's actually my father's name, ma'am. Ma'am, you can
I
call
don't
me
know.
Adit,
See, I
ma'am.
barely know any one of you here. So whatever's showing up on the screen, so please excuse me for that lapse on my part, because whatever shows on my screen, that's the name. Okay, you're Adit then. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the Indus Valley civilization had a very nice granary, ma'am, and they had this great bath, ma'am.
Okay.
Great bath was basically this big
Hmm.
uh, bath, ma'am, where the noble people or the higher ranked people in the society used to
Hmm.
go here and take
Hmm.
baths and everything, ma'am.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Fine. Fine. So by the then Daivik, what is it that you would want to add?
Ma'am, I would like to say that the Indus Valley civilization was known for its carving, its
What?
seals
For
and other
notes?
trade, and also
What was it
ma'am, its
known for?
seals
Could you
like
just come back again on that, please?
ma'am for
Hmm, I think.
carving, for its carving, and the dancing girl, the statue of the dancing girl,
Okay. Okay.
and
Okay.
also in its for its trade in the Lothal dockyards.
Hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So by the looks of it, most of you have a very more than a fair idea of what the Indus Valley civilization was all about. But nonetheless, the syllabus expects us to know in greater detail. See, whatever you've studied so far is pretty much the same content that, I mean, there's only that much we know about the civilization over years. And in fact, this is the 100th year of discovery of the Indus Valley civilization. So there's a small little backstory, as it were, that I want to kind of share. See, back in the time when the Britishers were uh, ruling or governing us, rule is the more appropriate word at the end of it. Yes. So when the British Raj was at its peak in the early 1800s or so, the British people had started laying out an extensive network of railways. And the railways were definitely not with the intention of helping the Indians with their commute, or ease out the commute from one place to another. Okay, but but it was more self Saujanya. Is this Saujanya? Okay, must be his Saujanya's sister. Is it who joined in with his name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, fine. So the thing is, the Indus Valley, the Britishers had no such kind motives or good motives to help Indians travel in greater comfort. See, compared to the means of transportation that was there at that point, the railways were definitely a big improvement. So this the idea behind laying out this extensive, even to this day, the Indian Railways is the legacy left behind. We've only kind of built on it, we have maintained it, and we've improved it. But the basic foundation of the railway network, as we see it today in our country, is definitely something that was given to us by the British. So they basically set up the railways across the length and breadth of the country to facilitate faster transportation of raw materials, which the industries and factories in way back in Britain needed. And if there was a delay in certain perishable commodities being transported, it would mean a lot of loss and short supply of the said commodity. So what the Britishers did was they started laying out these extensive network of railways across the country. So while this was happening, they happened to be, let's please understand the timeline that we are talking about right now happens to be an undivided India that included which region? Included which?
Pakistan.
Pakistan. Pakistan was way back then part of our country, and that's not what we need to talk about though. So we need to get this very clearly that the region that earlier, what we now know as being in Pakistan, was originally part of the Indian subcontinent, and it was also part of the larger British Empire. So in the course, everybody had forgotten, or initial the earliest recorded history of India for the longest time, at least up until 1825, when the Indus Valley ruins, about 1821, 1822 is when 1921, 22 is when the discovery happens. It's an accidental discovery. Up until this time, nobody knew about the existence of such an advanced civilization. Because why? Because we will find out shortly when we discuss and go into the other details of this particular civilization. I mean, we have everything. We thought the history of India as we know it today began with the Vedic civilization or the Vedic period. Why is it that we believe? Because we have an extensive repertoire of books and information left behind in the form of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Angas, the Aranyakas, the Brahmanas. These are all various Vedic literature, the epics, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata. So everybody firmly believed that the civilization of India as we know uh, was it all began with the Vedic period. So this is one part of the narrative. Coming back to the other part, where we talk about, I was talking to you about the railway systems network that the British were expanding very rapidly and very extensively in the country. And what does that have to do with the Vedic period? Another pertinent question. Yeah, what is that? What does that have to do with the this thing in this railways have to do anything with history? I'll tell you. So what happened while the British administration was busy laying out railway tracks in the region that we now know as West Punjab, East Punjab. West Punjab is still in India, children. East Punjab is the Punjab of Pakistan. Okay. So when this was happening, they were very surprised, because when they just, especially in the region of Sindh, that is Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, which is the province of Sindh in Pakistan, every time they started digging, see, you have to dig the ground to lay the railway tracks, yes or no? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So when this
Yes,
was
ma'am.
happening, the the authorities or the construction people were very surprised. Every time they dug the soil or the earth or the ground, they got beautiful bricks, all in very good condition, mind you, very good condition. And they were quite puzzled. What is this? I mean, this looks like a barren, uninhabited, regular land. How is it that we are getting so many bricks? And bricks are definitely man-made, aren't they? They're not made naturally. They're not rocks that are away, that are present naturally. These were properly molded bricks, and still better, they were terracotta bricks, very lasting and endure long, last, I mean, very durable and very, very aesthetic also. Okay, terracotta is that nice reddish color. You all know terracotta. I don't have to, right, tell you anything about it. So they were very surprised. What is this? This, for all purposes, looks like abandoned, uninhabited land. And how is it there is some sign of some earlier habitation here? This was a very big puzzle. And when they started inquiring, they went a little further down and they saw there was one small mound. It was always called Mohenjo-daro in the Sindhi language of the region. Okay, Mohenjo-daro, not Daro. Okay, so what was this Mohenjo-daro all about? People, when upon a little bit of inquiry and asking around, the authorities get to know it, the word Mohenjo-daro in English translates into the mound of the dead. So there was one stupa like structure. It was a burial site of some sort. Over the years, the stupa had come up in the Buddhist period. Okay, we all know what a stupa is all about, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
We all know what a stupa is all about. It is a monument that's built over the remains of a bodhisattva, not a Buddha. We'll talk about the bodhisattva, the Buddha, and everything when we talk about Jainism and Buddhism. For now, it will suffice to know that a bodhisattva was an enlightened soul. So he was venerated and revered by putting up a monument in his memory called a stupa. So there was this small structure. If you've seen pictures of the of Mohenjo-daro, you'll see one small little one dome-like structure. That's a very commonly appearing picture of the Mohenjo-daro. Huh? So that particular structure was the one that was very, very but that's something that we commonly identify with the Indus Valley civilization, apart from the dancing girl and the bearded man. So this particular civilization was predating the timeline of our history by a good 1,500 years, which is a very long period in time. So, coming back to this Mohenjo-daro, when the authorities looked around and saw, inquired, they understood that it was a very common occurrence in this area. Whenever people wanted bricks, they didn't really bother buying them. They would just dig up in certain particular places and they would get enough bricks for all their needs. So most houses were, constructed and repaired with bricks that were picked up from these sites. Nobody bothered, because when you're getting it free, why do you want to question the source, right? But little did they know the antiquity and the historical significance of these bricks. They were so old. They weren't just old, they were ancient. So when the authorities were very surprised, this is very unusual, this is what not normal. So what the authorities do is Then the word goes. Then certain archaeologists who were curious had, some idea, because there was this ancient, rather old stupa. There was this rather old stupa that was there, and it was called the Mound of the Dead. So the archaeologists of the time felt that something is bound to come up if they start excavating in this side. They had some kind of an idea. Maybe there is a settlement of some kind. There's some old ancient habitat that can be discovered. So out of curiosity, they go and check it. They go and they start a proper. At that point, there is Dr. Sir Alexander Cunningham, who's the head of the Archaeological Survey of India. He, along with Sir John Marshall, who was very, very instrumental in bringing these sites of the Indus Valley civilization to light, along with Shama Prasad Mukherjee, not Shama, Rakaldas Banerjee, R.K. Banerjee, and John Marshall. I think Shama Prasad Mukherjee was also involved. But Rakaldas, R.K. Banerjee, and Alexander Cunningham, they get the permission from the Archaeological Survey. They go and camp at the sites, and they start a proper systematic excavation, and to their surprise, they see they see a settlement. They don't even know what it is called up until then, because everybody, his entire world had forgotten. And when they did something called the carbon dating procedure on these bricks and the artifacts, so much came out. It was like a gold mine that was unearthed. So many things: pots, pottery, sculpture, bronze. And please understand, children, the Indus Valley civilization was a Bronze Age civilization. Why is it called a Bronze Age civilization? Because of the extensive use of the metal bronze. Okay, it is a Bronze Age civilization, whereas the Vedic civilization or the Vedic period is an Iron Age period, is the period of Iron Age. I don't even have to tell you after I've explained what Bronze Age means and what Iron Age means. What is the meaning of Iron Age?
The metal iron was used.
Extensively, very extensively. It was used very widely. Okay, it was used very, very widely for pretty much everything. And the reason why the Vedic civilization had an advantage over the Indus Valley people is primarily because they were using iron, which was more sturdy, more robust than bronze, and more enduring. So we'll talk about all that in detail later. So it's broadly understood. I think you all know the reason. In lower classes, you've done it in many times over, why civilizations always grew or sprung up in and around a river. Why did they do that? Why did it happen in that way?
Because the land there.
Agriculture and cultivation.
Okay. Everyone's talking and it's reverberating. Okay, I kind of get it. So the thing is, that there is a very constant, steady supply of water, which is one of the most crucial and vital elements for survival. So the other civilizations that are more or less contemporaries, that are of the same period or a little older or a little newer, but mostly older, newer, because historically we know for a fact, if not the oldest, it is one of the oldest. So we know the Egyptians existed in the Mesopotamian. So these three civilizations were pretty much contemporaries, flourishing in various parts of the world. We know Egyptians, thrived on the banks of River Nile, and we also know for a fact that the the Indus Valley, I mean the who are those Mesopotamians, thrived on the banks of the river. Which one?
Euphrates and Tigris.
Euphrates and the Tigris. Okay, right. So these were the two places where we could see these civilizations thrive. And likewise, closer to our whole subcontinent, or on the subcontinent, we have the Indus Valley. But now researchers and historians feel it was not just restricted to the valley, as you can see in this map here. Okay, as you can see very clearly, the extent of the civilization was pretty widespread. It was quite widespread. Of course, we have Mohenjo-daro here, then there is Harappa. All of these are in modern day Pakistan. However, we have our share of a considerably large number of sites. I think India alone, there are about 250 sites, of which the most prominent ones are Channudaro, Alamgirpur, Kalibangan, Ropar, Lothal, and Dholavira. Lothal and Dholavira are in and around the Kutch Saurashtra region, or that is Gujarat. Okay, Lothal is the dockyard, which can be found at the off the coast of Sindh and Makran coast, and Dholavira is not very far. It's near the run of Kutch. Okay, so there are quite a few places here: Channudaro, Alamgirpur, Ropar, Kalibangan. Ropar, Kalibangan are all in and around the Haryana, Uttar, that region. So there are plenty of such sites that are seen in India. All of them are pretty much the same, same in layout. All those details we'll talk about a little later. Then we this is the extent. No, like I said, when this whole systematic excavation was started off by the archaeological survey, it was a big revelation. It changed the very timeline of history, or at least Indian history, which got pushed back by 1500 years, a very long period in time. So we were by far, I mean, everybody thought we were a relatively newer civilization, but this was a big eye opener. It was a big revelation. So by 1500 years, our timeline went back. And what was unearthed at the various sites was mind boggling. Nobody for a second even knew so much existed. Now, let us also draw a parallel here. Whatever information we have about the Indus Valley as of today is purely and purely based on excavation of various sites and the artifacts and the detailed study of their artifacts. Okay, everything is based on observation. Why? Because we have found scripts on the seals, on various other sources, but we haven't been able to decipher this script, meaning we haven't decoded it. We don't know what it means. I mean, there are various, theories that are floating around these days saying we are almost near the threshold of cracking the script anytime, or it has been deciphered, it has been decoded, but nothing has been proven and validated very convincingly and strongly. Nobody has convincingly agreed that yes, this is it. But it's just the diametric opposite of for the Vedic civilization. All the information we have are literary. Everything about the Indus Valley is only by observation and study of the various artifacts that have come up, that have been found. Whereas on the other side, we don't have any information of any artifacts. Very few, very few, compared to the Indus Valley. But the biggest misfortune for us in completely understanding the full details and nuances of the Indus Valley is the loss, or the lack, or the inability on our part to understand what is written in their script. Okay, so this is the general the general introduction to this civilization, children. Okay, this is what this is what our textbook also wants, or not the textbook. We are not going completely by the textbook, mind you. We have something called a syllabus. I think you all have a rough idea. You've done it last year in 8th. Yes.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
we
Yeah,
have
you've
done
done the
for
syllabus marking and all that last year in 8th standard. So this year it is going to be that much. Last year, I think only to the last couple of lessons we have done that. This year we are going to do it very, very stringently, because everything that we do this year comes under the framework of the council syllabus. So this year, we will follow whatever is in the syllabus to the last letter. No deviation or variation of any sort from that. Okay. So the having said that, the most important features or aspects of the Indus Valley civilization is what? So this is, I can you all see this map which says geography of Indus Valley?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Now these two, and according to the syllabus, children, you are expected to know two of the most important sites of the Indus Valley civilization. That is Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Okay. So Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are the two most important sites of the Indus Valley civilization. These two civilizations flourished on the banks of the river Indus, and these two cities are pretty much the posters, which give us all the information. There are so many other sites, but these are the most prominent of the sites. Why? Because here is where the very first extensive they were found first, and also the majority of the work that was done happened here. Okay, are we clear about it, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. So now we will move on. So as per the syllabus, you're expected to know two of the major cities, along with two sites of the Harappan period found in our country, within India. Okay, because the two most important sites are nowhere in India. It doesn't really count as much, but yes, we need to know them. And also the two important sites we are expected to know, any two in India. So all that, when we do the marking of syllabus, we will give more greater attention, and the detailing will work out there. So now we know what the extent of this civilization is all about. Now, children, whenever we study about any aspect in history, or a time period in history, or a point of whatever it is we study in history, one of the first thing we will study about are the sources. Yeah, the sources. Sources are mainly of two type: archaeological and literary. This is a very broad classification. Okay, archaeological and literary. Under archaeological sources, you have two other categories, subcategories. One are monuments, the other one is artifacts. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to ask you a very, very seemingly obvious question. What do you think are the main sources we have when it comes to understanding Indus Valley? I
Artifact.
explained. Huh?
Artifacts, statues, jewelry, and
So what
even
are, listen, let's stick to the point. Let's not get carried away. I just want to know, do we have literary sources or no?
No, ma'am. No literary.
No literary sources. We only have certain structures. You can't even call them monuments, because they've all crumbled. So they're just some structures and some artifacts. So we will talk in detail whenever we talk about any time period in history. It could be a dynasty, it could be about a period of time. We will talk about, one of the first things we'll talk about are the sources. So, when it comes to the Indus Valley civilization, the sources that we will broadly be talking about are the most important structures: the Great Bath, the Dockyard of Lothal, okay, the Dockyard of Lothal. Then we will talk about the artifacts, the seals, pottery not so much, pottery not so much, seals are very important. Then the two masterpieces of the period, that is the dancing girl and the bearded man. So this is what our syllabus wants us to know. This is what is the information they want us to know. And another important thing or another important feature of this society, civilization that we will study in detail is the very very legendary and the most famous most talked about aspect of the civilization is their urban planning or town planning. They had such a good sense of or civic organization. And when I tell you, you'll be quite amazed how little India. See, other the optics may have changed drastically, but the fundamental core of our Indian society and existence is very very resonant with what we see in the Indus Valley period. The city is still pretty much, if you go to the rural parts of the country, you will still see such a similar setup in the various parts of the various parts of the country. It you can still relate to what I will tell you in this lesson. So the first thing we will talk about their town planning. So, children, what you see here is the city. It's an aerial view of the city of Harappa. Can you all see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
pretty much an aerial view of. So, it's an aerial view of this city of Harappa. So, what you see here is something that is called. I mean, now everything over a period of time, there's still excavations that are going on. And since given the fact that it's in a country that really doesn't have the resources or the bandwidth to keep such monuments of great antiquity in the greatest conditions possible, so there's only so much that can be done. I mean, that can be scene of whatever is there. Okay, so these people, I mean, this particular place was very advanced. Even when you see now, you'll see how relevant it is. In the recent past, I think a couple of years ago, Pakistan, you may remember, was badly affected by floods. Does anybody remember that? I think 2 3 years ago, or just in the immediate aftermath of COVID, they were badly affected by floods. All the so-called modern cities were flooded, including the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which was a bit of a concern for the authorities. Okay, there is a very big concern for for the people, because it's such an old structure, and what if it crumbles, and what if it just becomes irreparable. So a lot of these concerns were there, but astonishingly, to the surprise of everyone, the entire, given the fact that they had such an extensive and a wonderful system of drainage, it drained out faster than the rest of the modern cities. Such was the mastery these people had, and such was the layout of the city. Even after so many years of disuse and not being in the greatest of conditions, it is still so effective. Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's very very fascinating to see, know that something that's as so built in such a ancient time with very little technology is still sustainable and viable, contrary to the rather pathetic conditions we have in our modern day cities. So we will talk about their urban planning. The town planning is one of their most, what can you say, it was their trump card. So you will see, children, all the streets and everything are aligned. See, this is a better view. In this part, you can see.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Ah,
Ma'am, can you tell me how large was the city of Harappa?
see it's still, see, the entire extent of it has not been uncovered. So they may have left records, but we don't know the actual extent. We don't know it is this many kilometers wide, it's this many kilometers long, simply because we don't understand their script, right? So there may be a record of it, but we are at a loss to understand it. But whatever extension, the excavations are happening, it's still happening. The more they dig, the more they are getting. So it's very difficult to actually say this is it. So there are a few important sites that have been identified and maintained. What is the exact extent? We don't get a mention of it anywhere. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
Aditya?
Thank you, ma'am.
Hmm.
Thank you, ma'am.
Exactly, it is this many square kilometers, it's this many. We really don't know because it's ongoing. Every time they're looking at they go, they're getting a different, dimension to things. So it's a little difficult to quantify it in very certain terms. So, children, what do you all notice here? Can you see how symmetric everything is? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Everything is aligned properly. The same can't be said for when you see satellite images of our modern day towns and cities. It's just a clutter. Okay? It's a clutter. So, one of the highlights of the Indus Valley town planning highlights or features, one of the biggest features of their town planning was was this concept or idea that they had called the citadel. Okay, what do you mean by the citadel? Any idea?
It's a protective structure.
Okay, it's a fortified structure. So the Indus Valley people were acutely aware of the fact that they lived very close to a river, and rivers are often, more often than not, very, very prone to flooding. They're prone to flooding. So anytime they know, I mean, they knew anytime they knew things could get washed away if the river was to get flooded. So they were very, very careful about and mindful of this fact. So they knew they had to protect their assets. They knew they had to protect everything that was precious or that was important. So what did they do? They built a structure that was raised, and they built walls around it to protect it. And inside that is where you find the Great Bath. What is this Great Bath? It was like a large swimming pool. You will see when we talk about the Great Bath, you will see how modern and how relevant it. I mean, when I tell you the features, it is no different from what, see, minus the technology and the other, the mechanical aspects. The fundamental principle is still the same. So the citadel is where the most important people, the rich people, the bankers, the merchants lived. Obviously, because they were the they were the people who ran the economy. And then there were the granaries. We found a series of structures. Okay, which were we've seen remains of grains. We've seen grains of various kinds. So the granaries were there, and then there were the Great Bath was there. Then the most other important buildings were also found here. And all the citadel was all, and all one of the biggest highlight, all the streets were aligned. The streets were all houses were all built on a slightly raised platform above the ground level. All streets were built. Okay. And the citadel was always in the western part of each city. Okay, it was always in the western part of the city. Probably it was the furthest away from the water source. Okay, but at the same time close enough for it to have water supply, whatever for maximum distance away from the river, but at the same time easy access to the water source. So the citadel was built as a fortified structure. which housed granaries, which housed the houses, which had people and the priests and the merchants and the bankers lived here. So the citadel was a very important, and below the citadel was the general town proper, or the lower town as they called it. Okay, so see this picture here is the picture of the lower town, or the town proper as it's called. Yes, Shivam, you have a doubt. What is it?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, was this civilization ruled by any king? Or
No, that again, see, there again, there's a lot of ambiguity. There's again a lot of ambiguity, because there is a section of scholars that says they were a republican form of government, in the sense they had elected representatives, they did not have rulers, or they were ruled, or they were governed by a council of people who were elected. This is one
okay, ma'am.
discourse. Then again, there is also the statue of the priest king, he is called. There is a lot of debate on that. All these, gray areas of confusions are primarily owing to the lack of our understanding of their script. We
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know.
And I have another.
Huh. Go on.
Ma'am, and if these people, if there was someone ruling them, ma'am, did they also live in the citadel?
Obviously, the citadel was a fortified structure meant to house the movers and shakers, or the important people concerning, who were in charge of a lot of the general welfare of the other local common people. So definitely they
Okay.
would have lived there. But why we think they didn't have a monarchy is because we don't have any palatial or any kind of a structure that is very significantly larger and bigger than the rest of the houses.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So
Thank you.
the debate is ongoing. Again, see, we can't have 100% clarity about a lot of things because of the undeciphered script.
Okay, ma'am.
Mm.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Okay, moving on. So the citadel was a very important structure, and it gave us and we get to see. And like everything, children, when we talk of Indus Valley civilization, there is no rock in any construction or anything. Everything is made with bricks, because they had an abundant supply of the red clay soil, which was conducive to manufacturing bricks in large scale. So we have found on the outskirts, or the presumed outskirts of each city, there were large klins, KLINS. What are these klins?
Ma'am, they use for baking pottery and bricks.
Bricks. Yes, in the case of the Indus Valley people, these large kilns are basically for baking bricks. When you bake bricks, clay by itself is not very sturdy, but when you bake it, it becomes quite strong and robust. Hmm? So that's how it worked. So the everything and anything in Indus Valley was about have is about terracotta bricks. Yes, Jitendra, and then after that, Shivam can ask their questions. Please go ahead. You raised your hand, no?
Ma'am, how they used to join the bricks, ma'am?
They used a paste of lime and mortar. Lime and mortar was used. They didn't have cement. But they used lime and mortar. Lime is, what is lime? It is, we call it sunna in Kannada. Mortar is again a mixture of clay and other sticky things that will dry. When it dries, it holds the bricks together. They're equivalent of cement. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Shivam, what is your doubt?
No, ma'am, I had no doubt. I forgot to
All
lower
right,
my hands.
fine, fine. Chalo. So one of the main features, again, another very important feature of we talked about the citadel. We talked about the or the material that was used for construction, right? So the cities were very impressive for their very, very regular. We saw the pictures, how beautifully But what set the Indus Valley cities apart from the rest of the existing civilization was their wonderful drainage system. Of course, their cities were very well planned. Like I said, there are certain aspects, children, I can only explain to you when I meet you in person, okay, of this Indus Valley. The cities were so organized, they were in a grid pattern. Okay, they were all roads intersected at 90 degrees. Okay, they intersected at a 90-degree angle. The buildings that were at the corner were all rounded. You understand what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? The corner
Yes,
buildings
ma'am.
were not angular. They were not like two walls joining in one strong angle. One edge was not formed. It was curved. Why was it curved? It was curved so as to enable free movement of vehicles. So that when it is curved, children, you can see what's coming on the other. But if it is a blocked angle, you can't see, right? So they were so mindful and thoughtful of these aspects. They had this foresight and vision to plan things so, excellently. Other than that, it was a unheard of feature in the time that the civilization existed. Okay, at the time when the civilization existed, each house had its own drain and bathroom. Yes, Adit, what is your doubt?
Ma'am, did the Indus Valley civilization have any conflict or rivalry with any other
Not that we
civilization that was
know of.
close to it?
See, we'll come to all those in the last part. See, there are a lot of theories. One of the main theories as to why the Indus Valley people became extinct or why the civilization ceased to exist was the Aryan invasion. But in the recent few years, it has been debunked. Okay, debunked means falsified. So there is no such Aryan invasion that happened. See, the children, one very sad reality of our history, now that Adit raised this point, it's but valid we talk about it. See, our version of history as we know today is completely an anglicized version. Because the initial historians and archaeologists were all British and Europeans. Okay, so the version of our history that we study, okay, today the narrative has changed greatly. Okay, red flags have all the defects have been flagged, and today there is a better understanding of the actuals. But by and large, the narrative still remains anglicized and westernized. You get what I'm saying? So most of the information that we have is given to us by the British or the Western Europeans, like Max Muller. He is the one who wrote about our history in detail. And he is also one of the people who first said Vedic period is the beginning. But when we got when these discoveries happened, it went back by 1005. It's called the cradle of civilization, Indus Valley. Earlier, they said Egypt was the cradle of civilization. Then it became Indus Valley. You never know. History, maybe about ancient times, but it's a work in progress. With recently, has anybody heard of the Sinoli excavations in India? No? Nobody? Just look
No,
it
ma'am.
up. After now that I've told you about a little bit about the
Ma'am, in the
Indus
West?
Sinoli,
Ma'am,
Sin.
Sinoli
It is in India. It's in
excavations
India. It's very much in
in the
India. It's
West
near
India.
Delhi. Huh?
Oh, okay.
You check out Sinali excavations, you will see it's very close to Delhi. I think it comes in Haryana or Uttar Pradesh. I'm not sure. It's in the NCR region. You will see how. One second, Akshita. Let me just finish this. So you will see how the entire timeline and how the Aryan invasion theory, we thought the Aryans were the first people to come into the country with chariots and horses, but to our surprise, in these excavations we found an intact chariot, and they're older than the Aryans, almost contemporary to the Indus Valley people, middle of the mid phase of the Indus Valley, as they call it. These people correspond to that. Now, that again is a work in progress. So, history is never static, it's dynamic, it's constantly changing. So, children, we've talked about the citadel. So, in the next class, we'll talk about the remaining parts of our syllabus, in parts of the lesson in greater detail. Akshita, you had a doubt. What is it, ma?
Yes, ma'am. Why, even though the Indus Valley civilization all was well structured and all, why now in the modern world it's not the same at all?
That's a debate that's open for everyone to give a thought and think about. Why is it not so? We have really very few answers. I guess it's been mismanaged, it's been poorly planned, whatever could be the reasons. Well, that really cannot be correlated to the Indus Valley period. Imagine how much of population has increased, how much of pressure is there on our resources. And the mindset of people has changed, hasn't it? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am, it did a lot.
Yeah. Adit, what is it, ma?
Ma'am, did the Indus Valley civilization? No, sorry. Was there any other civilization in par with the Indus Valley civilization?
On par, I'm telling you, they were contemporaries of the Egyptians, because we know they had trade relations, because we've seen Egyptian seals in Indus Valley. Egyptian artifacts have been unearthed. Then we have seen similarly Indus Valley seals and artifacts in Egypt and Mesopotamia. So all these civilizations were believed to be contemporaries, meaning they all existed in their own regions at pretty much plus or minus the same time.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay, class, I think 11:50, or we've extended by a couple of minutes. We'll end the class for now and we'll continue in the next class. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you all. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Thank you.